I am 96 years old. There is a rifle in a glass case at the National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia. Most people walk right past it. It looks like any other old hunting rifle. Wooden stock, blued steel, a small scope mounted on top. There is a placard next to it, a few lines of text. Nobody stops to read it. I bought that rifle with 2 years of National Guard pay. My commanding officer called it a toy. The armorer wanted to know if it was for deer or Germans. The men in my platoon called it my mail-order sweetheart. And when I unpacked it from the wooden crate marked fragile at Camp Forrest in Tennessee, not one man in the 132nd Infantry Regiment believed it belonged in a war. So let me tell you exactly what happened. I was 27 years old in January of 1943. Illinois state champion at 1,000 yards in 1939, youngest winner in the state's history. I could put 6 rounds inside 4 inches at 300 yards with the Lyman Alaskan scope, 5 rounds inside 6 inches at 600 yards with iron sights. I knew what that rifle could do. Nobody else did. Nobody cared to know. The rifle was a Winchester Model 70, bolt action, 5 rounds. It weighed 9 pounds. The scope added another 12 ounces. The Garand they issued to every other man in the battalion was semi-automatic, 8 rounds, 9.5 pounds, no magnification. Captain Morris ordered me to leave the sporting rifle in my tent and carry a real weapon. I carried it anyway. We had relieved the Marines on Guadalcanal in late December of 1942. The Marines had been fighting since August. They had taken Henderson Field and held it, but they had not taken Mount Austin, and they had not cleared the Japanese from the coastal groves west of the Matanikaw River. Mount Austin stood 1,514 feet tall. The Japanese called it the Gifu, 500 men, 47 bunkers. We attacked on December 17th and fought for 16 days. We lost 34 killed and 279 wounded before we took the western slope on January 2nd. During all of that, I fired the Winchester exactly 0 times. The jungle around Point Cruz was different. No bunkers, no fixed positions, just Japanese soldiers who had retreated west from Henderson Field and dug into the massive banyan trees. Some of those soldiers were snipers. They had scoped Arasaka Type 98 rifles. They knew the jungle. They knew how to wait. In 3 days, they killed 14 men from my regiment. One of them was shot through the neck from a tree his patrol had walked past twice. The battalion commander summoned me on the night of January 21st. The snipers were killing his men faster than malaria. He needed somebody who could shoot. He wanted to know if the mail-order rifle could actually hit anything. I told him my credentials. I showed him the scope. He gave me until morning to prove it. That night I cleaned the Winchester one more time, checked the scope mounts, loaded 5 rounds of .30-06. At dawn on January 22nd, I moved into the ruins of a Japanese bunker we had captured 3 days earlier. I brought no spotter, no radio man, just the rifle and a canteen and 60 rounds in stripper clips. The Lyman Alaskan had 2.5 power magnification. Not much, but enough to see movement in the branches that the naked eye would miss. I glassed the trees slowly, left to right, top to bottom. At 9:17, a branch moved. No wind. 87 feet up in a banyan tree, 240 yards out. I watched. The branch moved again. Then I saw the shape. A man, dark clothing, positioned in a fork where 3 branches met. He was facing east, watching the trail where we had been moving supplies. I adjusted the scope. 2 clicks right for wind. The Winchester's trigger broke at 3.5 pounds, glass smooth. I had spent hours adjusting it at Camp Perry before the war. I squeezed. The rifle kicked. 240 yards away, the Japanese sniper jerked and fell through the branches, 90 feet to the jungle floor. I worked the bolt and kept the scope on the trees. Japanese snipers worked in pairs. If I had killed the shooter, the spotter was close. At 9:43, I found him. Different tree, 60 yards north of the first. This one was lower, maybe 50 feet up, and he was moving down the trunk. He had heard the shot. He knew his position was compromised. I led the movement and fired. He fell backward off the tree. 2 shots. 2 kills. At 11:21, a bullet struck the sandbag 6 inches from my head. Dirt sprayed into my face. I rolled left against the bunker wall. The shot came from the southwest. A different sniper. A different direction. I waited 3 minutes before moving back to my position. Found him at 11:38, 73 feet up. He had repositioned to a different branch, but stayed in the same tree. A mistake. I put the crosshairs on the shape and fired. By noon, I had killed 5. Word spread through the battalion. Men who had mocked the rifle wanted to come watch. I told them no. Spectators draw attention. Attention draws fire. The Japanese adapted after the 5th kill. They stopped moving during daylight. I glassed trees all afternoon and saw nothing. Day 2, January 23rd. Heavy rain until 8:15. The first sniper of the day had climbed into position during the rain. Smart, using the sound of rain to mask his movement. He had also chosen a tree at 290 yards, longer range than the day before. They were learning my capabilities. I compensated for distance and fired. He fell. The 6th kill. At 9:57, Japanese mortars began hitting the area around my bunker. They had triangulated my position. The first rounds landed 40 yards short. The second salvo, 20 yards short. I grabbed the rifle and ran. The third salvo hit the bunker I had occupied seconds before. It disappeared. I relocated to a fallen tree 120 yards north. Seventh kill at 14:23. Eighth kill at 15:41. This one had climbed 94 feet up. Good concealment, but the height created a silhouette when the sun angle changed. 8 confirmed kills over 2 days. 12 rounds fired, 4 misses. 3 snipers remaining. Those 3 would be the best, the ones who had survived the longest. And now they knew exactly what I looked like and what rifle I carried. Day 3, January 24th. I moved before dawn to a cluster of rocks the Marines had used as a machine gun nest. At 8:17, I found a sniper in a palm tree, 190 yards out. Low, only 40 feet up, hidden in the fronds. Easy shot from my elevated position. I started to squeeze the trigger. Then I stopped. Too obvious, too easy. 8 dead snipers in 3 days. The remaining men would not make elementary mistakes unless it was bait. I lowered the rifle and scanned every tree within 300 yards. It took 11 minutes. At 8:28, I found the real threat. A banyan tree 80 yards northwest of the palm. 91 feet up. Perfect hide. He was watching my previous position at the fallen tree, waiting for me to appear there or take the shot at the decoy. I decided to use their plan against them. I shot the decoy first. Then I swung the Winchester toward the banyan. The real sniper reacted, turned toward the sound. That turn created movement. I fired before he could fully face me. 2 shots, 2 kills. Then I ran. Machine gun fire raked the rocks 6 seconds after I left. I dropped into a shell crater filled with rainwater, water up to my chest. I held the Winchester vertical to keep the barrel clear. 10 kills, 1 remaining, the best of them. At 9:47, I realized my mistake. The 11th sniper was not in the trees. He was on the ground. Crawling toward my last known position, he had brought a partner. 2 men, not 1. They swept east past my crater, their backs to me. I rose from the water, slowly, silently, water dripping from the barrel, from my uniform. I aimed at the closer man, 42 yards, fired, worked the bolt, swung to the second man. He was turning, raising his rifle. I fired first. 11 snipers, 4 days. Then Japanese voices came through the trees. Infantry, a recovery patrol. They found the bodies. They found my boot prints in the mud. They followed them to the crater. A soldier appeared at the rim. Our eyes met. I fired from the water. More soldiers came. I climbed out firing. 3 more kills in the crater, 1 more from behind a fallen tree. Then I ran. 2 rounds left. Japanese rifle fire chasing me through the jungle. I reached American lines at 11:13. Captain Morris was waiting at headquarters. The mockery was gone from his voice. Colonel Ferry, the regimental commander, had one question. Could I train other men to do what I had done? I trained 40 men, 16 two-man teams, Springfield rifles with unital scopes. In 12 days, the sniper section killed 74 Japanese soldiers, 0 American casualties. On February 7th, a Japanese rifleman put a bullet through my left shoulder near the Tanamba River. The wound was serious, but the bullet missed bone and blood vessels. They evacuated me to a field hospital near Henderson. 2 weeks later, the Japanese completed their evacuation. The campaign was over. But my war was not. I volunteered for Burma. Merrill's Marauders. 3,000 men marching 700 miles through jungle the Japanese thought was impassable. I modified the Winchester, replaced the Lyman Alaskan scope with a lighter Weaver 330, shaved 14 ounces off the rifle. Over a 2-week patrol carrying 60 pounds, every ounce mattered. 3 months in Burma, 3 shots fired with the Winchester, 3 kills. Most combat was 50 yards or less, close-range ambushes in vegetation so thick you could barely see 30 feet. The rifle that had cleared the Point Cruz groves was almost useless in the terrain we were crossing. We captured Mitkina Airfield on May 17th. The Marauders were combat ineffective by then. Too many dead, too many sick, too many miles. The unit was disbanded. I went home, Fort Benning, training duty. I put the Winchester in a footlocker and closed the lid. I went to Princeton on the GI Bill, graduated with highest honors. 4 years at Oxford, 4 years in British East Africa, the State Department, decades of work, decades of silence. I wrote it all down in 1947, 400 pages. Every rifle, every distance, every ballistic detail I could remember. They published it as Shots Fired in Anger. It is still in print, still used as a reference. I wanted the facts preserved, not the feelings. I watched the military change. Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War. The Garand gave way to the M14. The M14 gave way to the M16. Sniping became a formal specialty with dedicated schools and purpose-built rifles. The lessons we learned by improvising on Guadalcanal became doctrine for generations of soldiers who never knew where it started. If you are listening to this, I want you to understand one thing. There will be a moment in your life when you are carrying something you believe in, and everyone around you tells you to put it down. They will call it impractical. They will call it a toy. They will tell you to carry something real. Carry it anyway. There is a rifle in a glass case in Virginia. Most people walk past without stopping. It looks like any other old hunting rifle, but it is not.